phone rings. A stranger answers. On the other end, a voice begging her dead sister to pick up. He doesn't hang up. He doesn't say a word. He just listens. Because the truth is, he doesn't have the heart to tell her the number isn't hers anymore. By the end of this story, you'll wonder if some connections are written by fate itself. Jill and Isabelle weren't just sisters. They were each other's whole world. Two girls who told each other everything, the good, the bad, the embarrassing 2 a.m. thoughts nobody else was allowed to hear. No secrets, no distance, just a bond most people spend their whole lives searching for and never find. Isabelle was the dreamer of the two, bright, funny, endlessly hopeful about a future she was building in her head school, a career, a whole life mapped out in her mind. Then one appointment changed everything, a diagnosis, a terminal one, college, career, all of it gone in a single sentence from a doctor neither of them had prepared to hear. Jill refused to let her sister see her break. She smiled through every visit, laughed through every phone call, carried the weight alone so Isabelle wouldn't feel like a burden. And even as life kept moving, bad dates, a dead-end kitchen job chopping vegetables while she dreamed of being a chef, Jill always made time for one thing, calling her sister and telling her about the day. Isabelle listened. Isabelle laughed. Isabelle was, in every way that mattered, still living through Jill's stories. Then the call came, not from Isabelle, from their mother, voice shaking, telling Jill to get to the hospital now. Jill ran. She prayed the whole way. And when she arrived, the only thing waiting for her was silence. Isabelle was gone. At the funeral, Jill stood in front of everyone she loved and said the hardest true thing she'd ever said. Her sister wasn't just her sister. She was her best friend, her strength, the person who held her together when nothing else could. And now she didn't know how to hold herself together at all. Grief doesn't leave when the funeral ends. It just changes shape. For Jill, it became a habit. Late at night, she'd dial Isabelle's old number and talk. Not because she expected an answer, because hearing herself say the words out loud into a phone that once belonged to her sister made the distance feel a little smaller. What Jill didn't know was that the number hadn't stayed frozen in time. Phone companies recycle numbers, and Isabelle's had been reassigned to a total stranger named Wes. Wes was an ordinary guy on the surface, but like most people in this story, he was carrying more than he let on. One night, in the middle of his own life, his phone buzzed with a voicemail from a girl talking to someone named Isabelle like she was still alive. Confused at first, Wes eventually pieced it together. The woman calling wasn't confused about death. She knew exactly what had happened. She just wasn't ready to stop talking to her sister. He told his friends about it, this stranger who kept calling a dead woman's old number, pouring her heart out to a voicemail box that technically now belonged to him. His friends didn't hesitate. You have to tell her. She deserves to know she's been talking to a stranger, not a ghost. Wes agreed, in theory. In practice, life handed him the chance to meet her before he ever had to make that call. At a chaotic public event, Jill stood up in front of a crowd and did something unexpected. She exposed a YouTuber who'd used her, promised her the world, and delivered nothing but heartbreak. The room turned on him instantly. Jill walked away from the wreckage of that confrontation and sat alone, untouched by her food, lost in her own head. That's when Wes found her. He didn't lead with the truth about the number. He led with charm, introduced himself as new in town, asked her to show him around. Jill, sharp and unimpressed, told him a stranger doesn't get a tour guide, so he told her about himself instead, his childhood, his mistakes, his oddly specific stories, and something about his honesty cracked through her guard. They made a deal. 1 week, no romance, just getting to know each other. And somehow that boundary made everything move faster. They wandered the city together, tried new food, explored places neither of them had seen. Jill loved his humor. Wes loved her honesty. Then, on a bus ride when the hired entertainer bailed, Wes grabbed the mic and turned the whole bus into his audience jokes, turning into something more sincere, more personal, aimed right at Jill without naming her. When they stepped off that bus, Jill didn't hesitate. She kissed him. Their week of just friends was over before it even finished. Weeks later, Jill cooked Wes a meal from scratch, the exact dish his mother used to make when he was a kid. He didn't know how she'd know that. He just knew it hit something deep. And in that moment of closeness, the secret he was still hiding felt heavier than ever. He knew she deserved the truth. He also knew the truth might end everything. He kept putting it off. Through an engagement party for his friend. Through a speech that made Jill believe her life was finally falling into place. Through every night she quietly dialed the old number, still believing she was only talking to a memory. And then, without meaning to, Jill exposed the truth herself. She called the old number like she always did, and Wes's phone rang right in front of her. Everything clicked at once. Every voicemail, every late-night confession, every private thought she was sending into the void, Wes had heard every single one of them. That's how he knew her so well. That's how he'd learned her, without her ever knowing she was being learned. Jill felt violated in a way she couldn't put into words. She told him never to show his face again and walked out, and Wes let her go, knowing he had no right to stop her. Life kept moving anyway. Jill entered a cutthroat competition at work for head chef, poured her grief and memory into a dish from her childhood and still lost. She quit on the spot, sank her savings into a food truck instead, and watched it nearly go up in flames on opening day. But she rebuilt. And this time, it worked. Wes, meanwhile, couldn't let go of his guilt. He learned that Isabelle's old voicemails had been wiped from the system entirely. Jill's last connection to her sister's world. Gone, so he tracked down an old hacker friend and, with no angle except making things right, recovered every single file. He delivered them to Jill anonymously, asking for nothing in return. When Jill heard her sister's voice again, she broke down, still unaware of who had given her that gift back. Then, New Year's Day arrived. Wes showed up at her favorite restaurant, no excuses left to hide behind. He told her the truth, all of it, and admitted exactly how badly he'd handled it. Jill's anger held for a moment until she realized he was the one who brought Isabelle's voice back to her. That he'd made mistakes, yes, but every one of them had come from wanting her happiness, not his own. He knelt. He asked her to spend her life with him, and her smile was the only answer he needed. The story closes on the two of them dancing under warm lights, holding on to each other like they'd both been waiting their whole lives for exactly this moment. What started as a stranger's mistake, a recycled number, a voicemail that was never meant for him, became the thing that saved them both. Grief turned into love. A wrong number turned into a second chance neither of them saw coming. If this story hit you right in the chest, you are exactly who this channel is for. We bring you the most emotional, jaw-dropping movie recaps every single week, stories that make you feel something long after the screen goes dark. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment telling us which part got you the most. We've got even more stories like this one waiting for you, so stick around, and we'll see you in the next video.